the Perfect Partner Podcast, a show for those of you who have not given up on love despite its challenges, where we have those difficult but productive conversations about those things that can really affect your relationship. I am your host, Erin F. Darden. I am an emotional intelligence and relationship coach, and I am on a mission. I really think it's my purpose right now to help you understand the importance of emotional intelligence in building and maintain healthy romantic relationships. Today, we are talking about being more than just romantic partners, but being romantic partners and also business partners. I think that is something that is pretty difficult. I don't know that I could be with somebody 24/7 a day, 24/7 like this. For some people, going to work is a break, the break that they need from not just their partner, but their families. But our guests today, they do it all together. So let me introduce our guests. Our guests for today, Warrick and Takicha Roundtree. They have been married for 27 years. They have two beautiful daughters, Zaria and Sierra, and have always seen business as a family affair. A house divided amongst itself shall not stand. It's Matthew 22:25. They live by that. And anything that they put their heads together for is a win. They each have a talent and a gift that doesn't come easily for the other. So if they work together for the same goal, they're magic and they're unstoppable. Takicha said that. Warrick and Takicha have launched several business ventures together. They've always used the knowledge and skills gained from one venture to propel the next. Their current businesses, the Brand Amplifiers and Brand Amplify Scale, were influenced by the nationally recognized brand they built for their youngest daughter, DJ Beauty and the Beast. She often attended the Untamed Tongues, a soulful poetry event similar to HBO's Deaf Poetry Jam that Warrick and Takicha created for locals in Las Vegas. She was often mesmerized by the DJ, and at 6 years old, decided that she wanted to be one. They had trouble finding anyone to take their daughter seriously, so they branded her themselves. By 8, she was a professional DJ getting paid to spend at school and community events. By 12, she was DJing at the White House for the Obama family. They grew their daughter's clients list to include major companies like McDonald's, Lexus, Amazon, the U.S. National Women's Soccer Team, and so many more. She's done ad campaigns for Uggs, Timberlands, Abercrombie and Fitch, Lufthansa Airlines. I've never flown them before.
They fly to South America.
Oh, I've never been there. That might be why.
South American company.
Yeah, but they fly through Europe also.
Oh.
Yeah.
The Smithsonian. DJ Beauty and the Beats birthday was shot on the 10th season of MTV's My Super Sweet 16 and has been watched globally. People took notice of how the Roundtrees built their daughter's brand and began asking for help to amplify their own. They had claims before they had an LLC. They wanted to help other people just like they helped their daughter. And this was the birth of both the Brand Amplifiers, the work for hire branding and marketing agency, and Brand Amplify Scale, the masterclass series for entrepreneurs who need to see transformational results but have limited budgets. Working together as a married couple has been an amazing journey. They believe it to be the secret sauce of their marriage and business success. Can't wait to get into that. Either we're doing it together or we're not doing it at all, which is what Warrick always says. I know these people very well. I know them personally. They have assisted me with my brand. People compliment me all the time on my branding scheme, my colors, and all of that. I owe it to these two people here, Warrick and Takicha Roundtree, the owners of Brand Amplifiers. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you. This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
I feel this is like a full circle moment because when I first started working with you guys would ask me questions and I had like very little answers for you guys. And I have to say that I am very proud of, the progress and clarity that I have gained in my business. And I have to definitely say that it wouldn't have happened without your support. And so I am here, right? partly because of what you guys have done. Not even just on the branding aspect, right? I thought it was just going to be about colors and all of that. Yo, I had no idea colors have meanings and the psychological and this and that. And Takicha be like, well, this is going to make them feel like this and this. And I'm like, I just want to coach. I didn't think about all that. That's not right. So all of that was them. And I definitely appreciate you guys. So, and in the midst of this, you guys would always share your experience and, stuff from your own relationship. So I absolutely appreciate that. And so I'm very happy to have you here today to talk about being both business partners and romantic partners.
I know you still like such an art. You're just like, I don't even believe this is a thing.
Right. And that 27 years is closer to 28 because we March to be 28.
Oh, that's right.
So
wow.
We're rounding the bend.
Married for 28 years. How long together?
1 year.
We
dated for 1 year. We went to prom together. Yeah.
1 year. So within 1 year, you knew this was it. This is what we're going to do. And here we are almost 30 years later. Yep. That's a long time to look at the same person.
She tells me that all the time.
I love that for you.
The thing is that, to be honest, like I always knew when people are not the one within a couple of days. You're just like, this is not going to work out. This right here is not going to work out. You have habits that I don't like. I don't want to have to force myself into anything. I'm not comfortable with you. We don't speak the same language. This is not going to work out. Right. And I think a lot of times, sometimes you just are like, all right, until something else comes, I guess, which is a terrible way of doing anything. So it's just like, why waste your time? But like with him, when I met Warrick, I actually was not trying to talk to him at all because I was dating someone. And I felt like if we have more than a 5-minute conversation, it's a wrap. And I already knew that when I met him.
Well, I mean, the dude she had wasn't the one. So
that's very interesting. So, and I'm so glad that you said before him, you knew within a couple of days that somebody wasn't the one, because people tell me I'm picky all the time. And I'm like, no, I just know, like, if this not going to work, it's not going to work.
Yep.
So I'm so glad that you said that. And you are not the first couple that I've met that somebody was dating somebody else when they met.
Yeah.
Their person.
Right.
So how did you know that he was like the one? Like you said, okay, anything more than 5 minutes, I'm assuming because the energy was just there, you knew that you was going to be in trouble. But how did you know?
So we actually met at a bus stop. I was with a friend of mine and we were at a bus stop.
Downtown
Miami. And I actually saw him before he got to us. And I said to my friend, oh my God, I think he is so cute, which is something that I very rarely did. Mm-hmm. And so he walks over and the first thing he said is, how are you ladies doing? Like, I actually remember that is the first thing he said. And I was like, that's rare, because in Miami, you get, so what's up? And I was like, wow, he introduced himself like a gentleman. Like, this is different. I used to get also like, hey, Black, what's up, Black?
Oh, yeah, that's what.
And you're like, really?
What's up, Black?
Like, who speaks to anybody this way? So, but the fact that he introduced himself as a gentleman was extremely appealing, and I liked how he looked. So I was like, this is a good combination. Mm-hmm. But honestly, I was not in a very good place that day, and I just walked away. So he said hello, I looked at him, and I walked away. For two reasons. One, I was like, I feel like I look busted today. I'm coming from school. I look a hot mess. Second, I was like, this is not going to go over well. I'm already talking to somebody and I think he's cute. So let's just not do this. Okay. So I walk away. He follows me. And so it just so happened that as he's asking me where I'm going, I'm like, oh, I'm going to work. He's like, where do you work? Oh, I work at this place. We happen to work at the same mall on opposite sides. Wow. So we never saw each other. Right. But that was the beginning of
the complete opposite side. I was on one end, she was on the very other end.
Right.
And never ran into each other.
So my bus comes, I get on the bus. He's like, can I give you my phone number? And I was like, no, because I'm already seeing someone. He wrote it down anyway. This is back in the day when you had to write. We didn't have cell phones.
No cell phones.
Puts his name on a piece of paper, phone number, hands it to me. The bus drives off, and I literally flicked it out the window. right? I was adamant that I'm not getting caught up in no mess. I flicked it out the window.
Dang,
so bus drives
girl.
off. 2 days later, this dude shows up at my job. And he's like, remember me? And I was like, this nigga.
We'll find out.
I was like, did he just come to my job?
She told me where she worked, so that means she wanted me to come.
That was his interpretation.
I like the. I feel like I can follow that train of thought. I'm with you, Warrick.
That's what she wanted.
I'm with you. Yeah. So you didn't let the flicking of the number out the window deter you.
Well, I didn't see that part. I knew nothing about that part.
Okay.
I knew she didn't call.
Okay.
And I figured, hey, maybe she lost it. Maybe her mom washed her clothes.
Maybe she lost it.
I'm blaming her mom now. Maybe mom washed her clothes or something, and whatever. I thought I'd just go ahead and make that opportunity again and go where she told me she'd be.
So sure enough, he showed up.
You don't tell a person where you be if you don't want.
Well, we were having
to show up.
To just tell you I was going to be there.
She told me where she was.
Anyway, that's not how that happened.
She told me.
So he shows up, and I'm like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "Well, I want to take you out to lunch." And I'm like, "Well, I've only been at this job a couple of days. I'm the greeter. I'm not going out to lunch with you. I'm already seeing someone. No, thank you." And he goes, "Well, what time do you go to lunch?" I'm like, "I'm not going to lunch with you." I'm so irritated at this point. But I'm also thinking, this is so cute. Is he serious?
Right.
So he sits outside on the bench facing the door. So he could make sure that I didn't leave without him knowing.
I'd already allotted my time. My time was already allotted. I was going out to lunch with her. So I had a little time to waste. There's really nothing else to do at that point. So I waited.
And sure enough, when I walked out, we went to lunch together. And I only had a 30-minute break, but it was the best 30 minutes of my life. We laughed the whole time. Like the whole time, I was just cracking up. So when he drops me back off. He offers me his number. He gives me his number again. He asked me for mine, and I was like, nope, I can't give you my number because I got a man. Right? Mm-hmm. I'm still on this. Like, I got a man. I'm not doing this. So, but when I get home, like the entire rest of the day, I could do nothing but think about him. I was like, oh my God, he's so fine. I like really just like him. And so I called the second I got home, and we spent 3 hours on the phone together talking about Friday. At the same time, it was the movie Friday. So remember Friday, the movie Friday with Chris Tucker. So we talked for 3 hours about a 2-hour movie. Yeah. How that's possible, I don't know. Ice
Cube is one of my favorite artists of all time. And, I do appreciate him making such a fine movie to give us some content to speak on that we could both relate to. So it was a success. Thanks, O'Shea Jackson.
For real. So I was like, I got to get off the phone. I got school the next day. And the whole day at school, I could think of nothing but him. And so I was like, oh my God, this is going in the direction I did not want it to go into. And so I would just call him. I would just call him all the time. And then we just would keep the conversation going. And eventually I had to tell the other guy, you know what, this is not going to work out.
And she asked the question. She said, how do you know? Or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Well, I was on my way to the military at the time. I was, waiting for, I was actually, it was a transition thing. It was really too deep. The Marine Corps.
How old were you?
Say again?
How old were you?
I was 19.
You were 19. And Takicha, how old were you?
I was 17 when we met.
Okay.
And by the time I got married, I was 18.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we, I was waiting for the military to go, and all that type of stuff. So, when we met, we were dating all this time. It took a year before I actually left. And, which was the time frame that we were together. And when I went to basic training, we had that long distance thing, of course. In basic training, I can't talk to her in basic training. It's few and far in between. So there's that other strain that you have there. So the military is something else. It's all a head game, when you're in. And I would write her often, like every day. And I would get no letters back. I would wait because, I'm waiting for these letters. No letters back. And then every once in a while I'd get, something from my mom or somebody else, but I would get no letters from her. And then one day, so I was thinking that, something was going on. So, my letters, as I was writing to her, I was saying, yeah, I'm writing, but I'm not getting any response from you whatsoever. And then one day I got just a box load of letters because they were holding them. They knew she wasn't my mom. They knew she wasn't my, one of my family members.
Right.
And she made the prime mistake of making sure that they all smelt like her.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, that on purpose. But
but my TI and all the rest of them didn't think that was so cute. So that's so.
Wow.
They realized that okay, I know how we get this guy. So they held my letters back.
Yeah.
So I wasn't getting these letters, and then finally they dropped them on me one day, and I was like, oh, okay, so she has.
She has been.
So I'm reading the letters, back, reading all the letters up to the point, to that point in time, and then it opened up. But yeah, that was a part of it, you know what I mean? But the point I was getting at was when I was getting my first duty station, and all as me and her were going back and forth. She did come to my graduation along with my mom and my little brother and things like that. But it was one of those things that we need to get married. I am not going to travel across the country, live over there, and not have her with me. So I made the decision that I'm going to propose.
That's interesting. So how long did they hold your letters for?
I want to say a good 2 weeks.
Because I feel like after I wrote you 14 letters and I didn't get a response, my assumption is you're ignoring me, you're not feeling me, and screw you at that point, because I'm not going to keep writing letters. You out here playing me like a sucker.
And I get that. But it was, we had built up this whole thing. We've been talking to each other so often. We see each other every day and we do all this thing. It just wasn't like her. So I didn't understand what was happening.
Okay. You knew that it wasn't like her. And I think there is some benefits to having younger love. I think you are more patient or open to things, because at this big grown age now, I'm not writing nobody 14 letters and you don't respond. That's crazy. That's like me calling you 14 times or sending you 14 text messages. Ain't no way, because now clearly you ghosted me, and that's what we talked about last week, ghosting. So clearly at this point you're ghosting me and you don't want to be with me.
Right.
But you hung in there.
The thing too is like everything about life is about the reciprocation, right? So if we had been reciprocating the same vibe up until this point, and you leave and all of a sudden you don't hear from me anymore, only a really cold-hearted person could be like, well, now he's gone, so I don't have to talk to him anymore. Right? That would just kind of be weird. And like he said, that wasn't my personality. That's not the vibe I was ever giving. So why would that change?
Right.
And I think it's really important, because we're still like that. Like if something is not right, we're just like, okay, that's not like this person. So even if for whatever reason I'm upset and I walk away, he knows that I'm not going to be gone for more than an hour. Like I'm going to walk down the street, cool off, and I'll be right back. Right. So it's not in neither of our characters to be gone for too long. Right. And for us, too long is really past 45 minutes.
Right.
Right. If I don't hear from you within 45 minutes, I'm like, what's up? Where you at? What you doing?
Yeah, I know. I got the cops. I walked up to the cops one day from my house, and the cops are there.
I was like, my husband hasn't contacted me in like an hour. And they were like, Aunt?
They're like, man.
I'm like, no. Something is wrong. This is not like him. They're like, he's a grown person, right?
Now I'm calling for 48 hours.
I'm like, no. I said, if something happens to my husband, because, with adults, you have to be, I think, gone for at least 48 hours before they would do anything about it. And this is when we lived in DC. And I said, look, my husband hasn't called me. It's been longer than an hour. This is not like him. I always hear from him. He always lets me know what's going on. And so you're talking about 48 hours, but we're in DC. Maryland, Virginia is like next door. So he could be in a whole nother state in another 15 minutes. I need you to find him like now. So they actually started to put together a report, and he walked up and they were like, are you Mr. Roundtree?
Yeah, that didn't help her out at all. That just made her look like a crazy woman.
Right. Now they really thought you were crazy.
Right.
That's
Right.
hilarious.
And I'm looking lost as I walk up.
What's going on? An hour is too long. I love that, but I think the best part of that is that you guys take the time to step outside of yourself and not be so consumed with your own emotions, and you realize that, right, this is not about me. Like, she's not ignoring me, right? I know that this is outside of her character, and I think that is something that is often missing, right? People jump straight into their feelings, and they are sometimes projecting from their past experiences, right? Or people are so afraid to get hurt. And it's like, oh, well, you're not going to play me, or I'm not going to, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is amazing that you guys, especially at young, when you were kids, still did that, to realize that, right? It's not always about me. Like, something could be wrong. And I love that your first response wasn't to, right, get defensive and try to protect and guard yourself, but you still took time to think about the other person and be considerate and know that this is not the person that you have grown to know.
Right.
I think that's an extremely important part of any relationship, whether it be a romantic relationship or a family or whatever it may be. I feel like we, as human beings, we jump to the negative conclusion too quickly, even after knowing a person for a period of time. And I feel like that I'm a movie lover. I like movies and television shows. I mean, I like the storytelling of it all. But one of the things that rubs me, that is a stickler for me, is when you got this guy or this girl and something's happened in the movie and that person is being accused of all types of things and then their partner's not there to support them.
Right.
All the evidence is pointing at them. All the evidence is there. It's pointing at that person. You're guilty. But we, as the viewers, we know they're not guilty. And that person knows they're not guilty. And I always felt like their partner should know them well enough to know what type of person they are.
Right. To say, no, he or she wouldn't do this.
They wouldn't do that.
Right.
And then, and then you get those ones where you're watching and you have that person that's on the other side that is that person's other half. And they're like, no. And then they basically incriminate themselves and to help them clear their names. And that's what I kind of feel like that we should be more like in the real world, is understanding and really weighing it all. Think about it. Understand that person. Now, if you can sit back and you think about that person, you sit down the line and say, yeah, I can see that.
Now, be honest.
Yeah, be honest. You know that person is capable of doing, but when you're sitting back, a lot of times that person could not have done that. And I really feel like that's where we should, concentrate our efforts on.
But I always feel like we're always on two extremes, right? Like, either we give way too much benefit, or we give way too much doubt, right? And it's like, okay, there is definitely middle ground. There's a lot of gray area. Everything is not always black and white. But especially as a woman, I feel like we don't use our discernment enough, right? Like, our intuition as women is really, really strong, right? So, like, the first time you realize something is not right, it's like, pay closer attention. You don't need for the shit to hit the fan before you're like, you're not for me, right? If you're not comfortable in a space with someone for whatever reason, take that and move on.
Right.
So what if I just, maybe it's just a thing, or maybe I can get over it, or maybe, I don't know, whatever somebody tells themselves to stay in a situation, like, because then what? Like, it might just be a fad. Like, this might just be a one-off experience or it might just be me, or maybe I'm being too picky. And what do you say at that point?
The thing is that we often are not taking into consideration the red flags, right? If it's not a big deal to someone else, that doesn't mean it can't be a big deal to you. I don't like it. I don't feel safe. I don't like how it feels. That's good enough of a red flag for me.
Yeah.
I'm the one that's going to have to be with this person for however many years, forever, and if it's not comfortable now, it's definitely not going to be comfortable later. Things that we seem to think we can look past actually become a bigger aggravation later. Because in all honesty, the thing you like about your person now is going to get on your nerves later. You know what I mean? So it's like, you have to decide what is okay and that I can deal with it for the rest of my life versus what's not okay for me to deal with for the rest of my life. right? And so like one of the things I loved about Warrick when we first met is how much he talks, because I'm an introvert. Right. So the fact that wherever we went, he could make friends so easily and everybody seemed to be drawn to him. I thought that was so attractive. At 47 and 45, sometimes I'm like, bruh, but it's acceptable because I know that I got with him like that. So I can't expect that all of a sudden he's going to be quiet. Like, that's not a thing.
The funny part, Erin, is she uses far words. but we're not going to talk about
it. That's hilarious. We have a comment here. They said, you'll know when a person really loves you if when you are gone for more than an hour, they desire to be in your presence. So I guess you guys are setting a new standard.
Aww.
That's how they're going to know that the person loves them, is if they show up, they've been going for an hour and the cops is at their house when they get back.
We have a firm belief that you go where you're celebrated.
Yeah.
You go where you're celebrated. You don't go anywhere you're not. And we oftentimes get people ask us questions, relationship questions and things of that sort. And sometimes people are hung up in that thing where one girl, she was so much talking about this guy. She called him, she was this, that, and how, she was just after this guy. That's like, this guy's not interested in you. And I just told her like that. Just told her, this guy's not interested in you. She's like, what do you mean he's not? I was like, he's not. I mean, if he was interested in you, he'd be looking for you. He'd be he'd be thinking about you. He'd be finding ways to converse with you. And if he knows you, he'd know exactly where you are and what you're doing. And he'd be there, So I feel like we need to understand that and know that what that person just exactly what that person said. You know what I mean? There should be some type of
indication
lack in that person's life when you're not around. That has to be.
That's a good one, because I was actually reading something in one of these mini Facebook groups I'm in, and a woman was asking something similar, like, oh, X, Y, and Z happened, or like something about either something happened or something did not happen. And my response, I didn't comment, but my response, or what popped in my head was, he just don't like you.
Right. Okay.
He doesn't. Like yes, men still playing dates. So I would have to say this. So I went on a date earlier this last week. And I would say this probably would have to be, I might even say, the best date, because he paid so much attention in terms of picking a restaurant, doing research to know that I like Italian food, and wearing a suit because I like men in suits, and having flowers and my favorite candy. Like, I don't know that I've ever had anybody pay that much attention. And it's different from me, right? Like you said, in a couple days, I'm usually done with somebody. Well, I usually give people like 2 weeks. Right. And I'm like, you pay attention? Like, oh, like you really like me. This is something different. I gotta move a little bit. Like, you really like me. Like, this is, and you have to move differently. But and I think that's true. Like, and I thought about that. Like, we see a lot of these posts. Like, do men still plan dates? Do men still do this? The amount of detail that this man planned in this date, I was even taken aback. Like, and I believe in true love. Like, I know that it's out there, but to see it in person is still something totally different. So, ladies, I'm not saying that there are certain standards and certain things that a man has to do, but you'll know if a man is interested. If you're chasing, like, we're too old to be chasing at this big grown age. You could pursue. Chasing means I don't want to be called. And that goes for both men too, right? If you are the only one calling, if you're the only one asking to see, she don't like you.
Simple.
Like you said, the energy got to be reciprocated at some point. I love that.
But men are simple creatures. And if they're not following those simple things, then probably something wrong. And, you don't have to dig too deep and think too deeply in regards to what's going on in his head. He's a pretty simple guy. And if he's not giving off those signs, then you're probably right.
Right. So you decide it's time for you got to go overseas, I'm assuming, for your first assignment. Right. And you I'm not going without her.
Mine wasn't overseas. It was the West Coast.
Okay.
And she was in Miami. So 3,000 miles difference. And
you no way. Too far.
Yeah, it was too far. You know what I mean? So we got married when I came home for my rest break. So we got eloped. So
that is so sweet.
that's how we did it. And then when we got to the West Coast, when we got to Las Vegas, we went into our life, hop right in. And I feel like that's another thing
that was very helpful to our marriage. Yeah, because we were still learning each other. So one thing that I really, really loved, and I'm actually really proud of, is the first year that we were together dating, we actually never had an argument. Mm-hmm. There was nothing to argue about. We were always in complete bliss in each other's presence, right? Mm-hmm. And so, we didn't have our first argument until after we had Zaria, I think.
Yeah.
Right? After we had our first daughter is when we actually had a disagreement,
mm-hmm.
And so what I really feel like Vegas helped us to do is to learn how to communicate in disagreement without bringing other people into our mess.
Right. Mm-hmm. There's no old friends.
Right.
There's no mom and dad and the rest of your family. They're 3,000 miles away.
Yeah. There's I'm going to my mama's house. That was not a thing.
We don't have cell phones. There's no email.
Right.
There's no social media. We have to figure this out.
Yeah.
As two new grown-ups in a relationship, we had to figure it out.
Right. Right. And I also feel like we have to be we have to pay close attention to what we are paying attention to. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Because that dictates quite a bit what your expectations are in a relationship. And so we mimic the things that we see, even subconsciously. Mm-hmm. So if there are marriages that you don't like and you wouldn't want your relationship to be like, you should probably pay those people less attention.
Right.
And a lot of times, especially in our current society, we put so much energy into other people's relationships, and we even title them relationship goals, and they'd be a mess. And you're like, why are we putting these people on such high esteem? They can't get it together for themselves, but now I'm aspiring to be like them.
That's super dangerous.
Really dangerous. And so the reason I'm saying this is because my grandmother and grandfather I wouldn't say they were happily married, but I had never actually experienced or seen a toxic relationship. Mm-hmm. They lived in the home together. I didn't know that they were not together until I was older, right?
Right.
I knew that they had separate bedrooms. I slept in my grandmother's room. My grandfather slept by himself. And as kids, you don't really understand what any of that means. Mm-hmm. But I knew that every day she cooked him morning, breakfast, lunch, and dinner was always ready for him. He would come and sit down, eat. They may mumble a little something to each other. That was it. So because I was raised seeing that, even when Warrick and I were in disagreement, he still had a hot plate. I would cook for myself. I didn't want to cook for him, but I still cooked for him. He still had a hot plate. We may not exchange words at the table, right? But then we ate, and that was that. Warrick also had his rule was we don't go to bed in disagreement, right? And I think that's something that we really cherished in our marriage a lot, which was like, hey, we can't go to bed and not speak to each other. So can we just talk it out?
That's a hard one.
That is a hard one.
That's extremely difficult.
We did that. We also decided that we would never sleep in separate rooms. So even if we're upset, we're going to get in the same bed.
Yeah. Right. That whole thing about a dude sleeping on the couch and all that type of stuff, that's for the birds. That's TV. You know what I mean? No. Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's super disrespectful. You guys are partners, and all this type of thing. And you have to figure out how to work around your issues that you have on a regular basis. But it's just super disrespectful.
Right. But it does make it easier when you decide on what the ground rules will be. Right. And you can establish that extremely early. Every time something happens that doesn't feel good, it's time for you to vocalize that, say that. Right. And so those things have really, really helped us where, for one, we don't call each other out of each other's names. Like we're not going to start cursing. That's not happening.
Right.
It's just not happening. And even in disagreement, if the conversation starts to get heated, we're like, all right, we talk about this later.
Yeah,
I'm not going to talk to you with the energy like this.
That's another very important part is the words you choose when you're in disagreement.
Right.
When you're upset. And things of that sort. You have to be really cognizant that you cannot take those words.
Right.
Once they're out, they're out.
Right.
And and people need to really understand how important that is. We do not, after 28 years of being together, we do not do that. We will not, you will never hear me call her out her name. You won't hear her call me out my name. I'll never say anything out that just, you know, how people try to do something just to jab at you.
Angry. Yeah.
You can't do that. This is the person that you're supposed to love this person. The reason why you married this person is because you put this person's needs above your own. And if you have their best interest, ladies, listen to this, and the guys, of course, the person has to have your best interest at hand. And you can tell that person has their best interest at hand by how they talk to you, and the things they do, and the actions they make. You know what I mean? So if you have their best interest at hand, you should never, I don't care, in anger or whatever it may be, just haul off and say something that you just want to jab pain into. That's not okay.
Yeah. So many questions that you guys brought up. So since we're talking about communicating, then I'll go back to my other questions. I guess, how did you guys figure it out? You said you were 3,000 miles away from your family and friends. You know, you were still relatively young, but you guys had to figure it out. So, you know, you put in the no calling each other out of names, no cursing. If we need time, take it. Like, how did you guys come up with these, I'll say, rules or whatever to help you guys be effective communicators?
I guess a lot of that came from just, like she said, she didn't see a toxic relationship. I saw plenty. You know, and I think that, you know, just, you have to pay attention to those relationships. You have to know what you don't want, right? You have to know the things that cause toxicity. You know what I mean? So it's like, if, you know, you've watched your parents argue and, you know, you heard them say certain things to each other, you know, I don't want to say that to my wife, or I don't want to say that to my husband. Or those types of things. I think those things kind of play a part in it, of teaching you what's right and wrong. You know what's right and what's wrong.
You do.
Right.
You know, you're an adult. You're an adult person. You know exactly what's going on. You know what hurts and what doesn't, and you know what you want. It's that long, true statement, or a psalm or a proverb of do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Right.
And if you live by that, then there's no way your relationship is going to fail if both of you live by that.
Because I wouldn't do something to you because it was done to me, and I wouldn't do something to you that I wouldn't want you to do to me. Right. So if I start with that, right, like, we're not keeping score here. So if I can at least start with that, even if you say something that I think is hurtful, to preserve myself, my energy, my integrity, and who I said I was going to be, I'm going to walk out and I'm going to let you know that, hey, I didn't think that was okay, and I don't want to do this like this. You know what I'm saying? And so that has been a really big part of how we practice life. But the other part too is, this is where the emotional intelligence comes in big time, is if you think of the result first, right? Like, what is the result that I want from this? And if I think of the result first and I move backwards, then I'm going to make sure that the things I say and do, the actions I take, are going to bring me to that result. Right? So if I want peace in my home, or I just want Warrick to take out the trash, right? And we also know each other very well. So it's like you study people. And so if for whatever reason I can sense that he's not in a good mood, one or two things are going to happen. Either I'm just going to take out the trash, or I'm going to be like, I'll ask him later, right? Or I'll tell him later. Right now is just not a good time. I can feel that it's not a good time, right? So and ego has to be completely removed from that.
That is the,
because a lot of times what we're doing is trying to feed our own ego. I'm gonna tell that nigga, it's like, for why? What am I gonna get from that? You know what I'm saying? And typically the result is bickering. So, but that's not what I want. So if I want peace, I'm going to make sure that I do and say the things that will keep the peace in my home. Right.
Because ego, that's one of the things we tell people all the time. That's a question people ask and say, what's one of the secrets of being together so long? Is eradicating ego. It's like ego has no place in a relationship. None. Once again, the person has your best interest at hand. Why are you getting egotistical with a person that has your best interest at hand? You know, if a person is telling me something in love or whatever it may be, or criticizing something I'm doing, then I have to understand that person has my best interest in hand, whether or not that advice is good or bad.
Right.
I mean, the advice may be bad, but at the same time, I understand that this person has my best interest at hand. Mm-hmm. They think they're telling me the right thing. You know what I mean? Typically, in a relationship like ours, when we're talking back and forth and we give each other advice, it's usually good advice. I can't say that she's giving me bad advice, but my point is, if I am feeling some type of way or whatever it may be, I have to be able to chop ego out the door.
How do you do that?
Like another day.
How do you do that? How do you set your ego aside, especially as a man? How do you just like, okay?
It's one of those things where you listen more than you talk. You kind of shut your mouth. You know, Mom said, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, then shut up. Then don't say anything at all. And I'm a Bible believer. So, you know, one of the piece of advice I live by is, it's the one where a guy, if it's better to have a person assume that you're ignorant than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. So I'm really good at sitting back, listening, keeping my mouth shut, and then thinking about what I'm going to say before I say it. And that's one thing that I feel that most people should have if you're dealing with a situation. Please don't just spew off. Don't let emotion push you forward. Think about what you're about to say or do.
Right.
Think about it, and then go and then proceed. One good way to do a lot of those things is, you know, like we talk about with emails all the time. We say, sit back on it. Don't answer right now. Answer tomorrow. Answer in an hour. Answer. You know, if you still feel the same way about this a while later, then maybe it's okay. But you have to cool down. You have to push that up, and that's what's going to make it a lot easier to just push ego aside, because it's easy to tell when it's ego and when it's not.
Yeah, that's important.
If you let that time in between, that makes a huge difference in what you say. If you just let it rest, I don't have to respond now. Like, my favorite quote is, I don't have to be right now. Right? Like, I feel like you need to know this, but I don't have to tell you right now. You know, so if I let some time pass, and then even in like the way I say it, sometimes I'll say like, hey babe, we were talking about something yesterday and something made me uncomfortable, or something you said made me uneasy. Right? The conversation is already going in a space that's uneasy, because I'm saying, hey, I was uneasy about this. Right? But at least at this point, we're not mad. And there's a difference.
It's not a hot fire burning right at this point in time.
You know what I'm saying? And I have started conversations with, babe, this might hurt your feelings, but
right.
I've started it that way. But again, like he was saying, it's, you know, the intention behind it. You know that this person cares for you and they need to express something. Right? And so how do they express it if we can't talk to each other? How does that happen?
Yeah, we got to treat each other like teammates. You have to realize that we're both going for the win together. And if she doesn't win, I don't win. If I don't win, she doesn't, you know, and that's how you treat every situation. It's like, okay, we're going for the cup. We're going for the ring. We're really at this thing. So I need her to perform at her best ability, and she needs me to perform at my best ability. So at that point in time, I have to treat her in a certain way and speak to her in a certain way, and, you know, all those types of things that is more conducive to a winning team.
And so before you guys have these uncomfortable conversations, do you ever kind of forecast or let the person know like what it is that you want from them? Like, hey, this may hurt your feelings, but you know that you need something to be different. Or you say, hey, I just need to vent, or hey, I just need to let you know that this hurt my feelings. Like, do you ever set that out ahead of time, or do you just kind of figure it out as you're having the conversation?
It depends on what it is. The first thing is, I'm always thinking about, what do I want out of this first? Right? Like, because then that also determines whether the conversation is required.
Right.
Because you can be mad about something that doesn't require a conversation, to be honest. Right? So it's like, okay, I'm upset about this, and this is what I want to happen. How do I address it? How long do I let it go before I say something? You know, I know I'm still upset, so I don't want to say it now. I also am I do devotionals every single morning. So depending on what people's beliefs are, this helps me, is when I'm I write my prayers down. So if there's something that is really annoying me, I take it to God first. I'm like, look, your boy is crazy. He done lost his mind.
Right.
We need to figure out how we gonna tell him this. Right? And so like I'll write it down and then I'll go over it so I can figure out what tone I need to have to get the result I want.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when is it appropriate to have this conversation?
Right.
You know, and sometimes if it's super uncomfortable for me, I may not say it in person. I actually might write a text,
Mm-hmm.
you know, where I'll say, hey, babe, I wanted to tell you this, but I'm really uncomfortable saying it in person. And so I'm going to say it in a text. And I've even said to him, please don't reply. I want you to sit with this and then we can have a conversation. But I needed to get it off my chest first.
Mm. This is a lot. It takes a lot of maturity.
It does. But I think it's because we know what we don't want.
Yeah.
Right.
But I do go back to the point of we separated ourselves from our family a very long time ago. We had to grow up. We tell ourselves all the time, we look at the new generation coming up and, you know, and our kids are all grown. Our youngest is 22. And we sit back and say, you know, at our youngest daughter's age 22, we were married with
one and a half
kids. Well, one kid really.
Right. Well, we were pregnant because I had her at 23.
At 23. But it's you know, and then we say back, say, you think they could handle the life that we lived in that time? I was like, yeah, I don't think they were.
You know, there's something that I always say too, babe, which is like, I feel like sometimes there's something about the fact that we're watching so much television and we're consuming so much content that makes us believe that chaos is love. Right? I'm like, your life don't need to be chaotic for it to be love. Like, that's not
a relationship
comfortable space.
Or
like,
the relationship is boring because there's no drama. You know,
and I'm like, no, I believe you love me. I don't need to throw no cups. I don't need to. I don't have that kind of energy. I don't want that kind of energy. We're good.
But you brought up business and things of that sort. We want to spend our energy doing other things. Drama does not help that, right?
Right.
It's like, you know, we know what we want. We know we want to leave something for our children. We know we want to have an empire of sorts and all those things. So it's like we have to concentrate our efforts on those types of things. And drama, neither one of us want drama invading our household.
Right. Yeah. And I agree. I always say that you don't have to struggle. This is optional. Like, I'm not the fighting and arguing. That's not me. And I'm so glad that you guys say, like, you know, that's not something that you're into. Disagreements, yeah, you can have. But don't yell and scream at me now. That's crazy. Like, that's wild. Don't, like, it's just, I'm just, right. Or to think that you got to struggle with somebody or you got to ride it out. No, if y'all not working, y'all not working.
Right.
And Takicha, you mentioned knowing what you didn't work. And I've worked with women where they've said they've never seen a healthy relationship. They've never seen, you know, a couple stay together. Right. Which, you know, I think it definitely happens. And so what I always tell them is that even if you don't know, I think what's most important is knowing who you are and knowing yourself. Because you have to build a relationship that works for you. Right. My parents have been married. June will be 50 years. Wow. And I'm like, but there are things about that marriage that I don't want for me, right, and my guy. And so I always talk about how knowing yourself and, right, the things that you want and you need and what you want and need in a partner is most important. And that you mentioned, like, all these relationship gurus out here, right? That's part of the issue that I have with them. They project their experience or their rule as if this is the only one way. Right. You know, I've told y'all guys from the very beginning, I don't give advice. Right. This is not about building my relationship. Right. I want to help you figure out your own stuff so you can heal and you can figure out. And I think that's part of the issue in this climate today. Right. People want a quick fix, like, oh, do A, B, and C, and you're going to have your person forever. And it's like, no, a lot of you need to heal. Like, you got to do the work on yourself so that you don't say things out of anger trying to hurt somebody, or you're not just, you know, you can put yourself aside and have your partner's best interest at hand. And so for those people that don't feel like they've had the good example, or right, they are unfortunately on social media and, you know, just listening for things to do you guys have any suggestions on how they can kind of figure out what their relationship should look like for them, right? Like, so you guys had to move away and that helped you guys figure it out for you. What other things do you think, if you have any suggestions as to how people can kind of figure out what works for them and their person?
I like what you said up front in regards to understanding who you are. A lot of people will tell you up front, a lot of wise people will tell you all the time, you need to know who you are before you step into some relationship. That's true. You know what I mean? You really need to know who you are. Yes, we were young. You sit back, some people can sit back and say, hey, how'd you know who you were at that age and all this and all that? I knew what I wanted. I know what I didn't want.
Right.
I knew that I had a woman in front of me that made me feel good and I was celebrated around and all this type of stuff. And I didn't want that to end. So therefore, I knew that I could make the next step. And then it's on me after that to make sure that stays that way throughout my life.
Yep.
So, as far as that's concerned, but at the end of the day, it's really separating yourself from the noise of the world and understanding outside all the noise, who I am, what do I want, where do I see myself, and does this person complement that?
Right.
You know what I mean? And yes, there could be something, a person come in your life, open your eyes, you get epiphanies and stuff like that, and you just go off another route. That's very possible. We're not talking everybody. We're just saying that if the best way to hop into that situation first is to know who you are, know what you want, and to understand what that looks like.
Right.
No, I didn't understand what it looks like because I didn't see those healthy relationships, but I knew that I wanted the opposite of what they had.
It's a good example. So it's still an example of what you do or what you don't want. I love that.
And
so
it's also
you knew
just like our own feelings, the way we feel. When something doesn't feel good, right? And we have this thing that we do. It's like no matter what happens in your life, and it sucks. Some people get in trouble for saying things like this, but no matter what happens to your life, there has been a contribution on your part in some form or fashion. And it sucks that we won't accept that. And I'm not talking about when you were a child. So let's not go to those extents, right? But as adults, everything that happens to me, around me, I've had some sort of contribution, no matter how tiny. So with that being said, I'm like, okay, this happened. I didn't like that. No matter how wrong that person was, what could I have done differently for this to not have come to this?
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of times we're trying to pass blame.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it may be 100% that person's fault.
But we are a blame culture.
But what could I have done differently? And it's after I've explored all of those things that makes it easier for me to go, okay, I see how I contributed. So I'm going to make a shift so that this is less likely to happen again. Right? But I'll also say, hey, when you did this, I felt this way. When you said this, it made me feel this way. And there have been examples where I'd say, now I want us to come to a place like we're both equal right now. And I want you to think, I just want you to imagine me saying these words or me doing this thing. I want you to imagine that. How does that make you feel? Right? And when that person can feel that, it's like, ew, my bad.
Right.
Empathy.
But when you have a person that's mature enough to say, hey, we got this argument. I know I'm right. Da, 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 da. But they can sit back and say, okay, but what could I have done different to attack this situation? That is that right there is a footstep in the right direction. So when you do that and then you apply those things that you came up with and you see how that works in the future, if that thing doesn't work in the future, then you're probably in the wrong situation because that person can't really handle a person that is that mature. Right. Because what's supposed to happen, this is magic right here. You can call it what you want. But when you do that, when you sit back and you evaluate yourself, even when you know you're right, and you come back and you then approach the situation differently, that person's going to follow you.
Right.
They're going to follow you. They're going to do things differently because you did things different.
Right.
You didn't say it, you just did it.
Right. I love that.
And so typically it's kind of like human nature where we match each other's energy.
Mm-hmm.
It always takes a bigger person to not match energy.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's like, all right, well, I'm going to give the energy I want.
Mhm.
Right. So you can act the fool if you want to, but I'm not about to match that energy. This is going to go to a whole nother place.
Right.
So I'm going to settle down and you'll match my energy.
Right. Right. And so I feel like when we got to settle down and so that we don't match each other energy, for most people, I'm going to go to work. I go to work. I have at least 8 to 10 hours outside the house and I don't have to see your face. You know, that gives me time to think about it, maybe talk to a coworker, a girlfriend, whatever. I come back, I'm cool. However, with the Roundtrees, when y'all need a break, y'all work together, y'all live together, y'all parent together, like it's a lot. How, and I think this is probably the number one question I got, like when I was, advertising this episode, this was the number one question people wanted to know. How do you keep it separate? Because now you can't mess the money up. No. But I'm also mad at you. And so it's like now I gotta talk to you because money isn't like, how do you do it? How?
That's a real thing.
That is a real thing. And we separate.
We separate.
Yeah, we separate. Like, so first of all, we have employees. So this is funny. We have employees.
Okay.
But our employees live in like different countries. They're not all in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So what is
remote work?
We do, right. So they have remote work. So what's funny is we have a digital office, a virtual office. Mm-hmm. And so you can see the office, you can see where everybody's sitting. So I can still see Warrick in his office, even though I'm not talking to him because he done made me mad.
Right.
And then, but he's actually in the middle of creating a training manual. Mm-hmm. So I could see him walking over to my desk and I'm like,
see, this is what I'm saying. That's right.
So we work via Slack as well. So before he comes to my desk, he will literally write something in Slack first. So he's like, hey, I'm working on XYZ and I need your input. And so sometimes I don't feel like it. I'm like, I don't feel like talking to you right now. Right. But if a delay in conversation with you is a delay in my bank account.
Right.
So I have to talk to him. So he comes into my office, I'll turn on my camera and I'm like, hey, he's getting the cold shoulder, but he's like, okay. I need X, Y, Z. And I'm like, all right,
make this quick.
I got you.
Cool.
I'll say what I need to say and you need to pop. And then he's like, cool. He leaves. But usually we don't go it's very rare.
It's very rare.
That will go a whole 24 hours.
But let's go back to what we were saying before. After a while, if you're thinking about it and you're in a certain situation, you understand that you don't want to be mad at this person. Right. You don't really want to be away from the person. Your person that your listener that gave the comment an hour and all that type of stuff. It's a real thing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So after a while, somebody's going to sit back and say, all right, so what's up, man? What are we doing here?
What are we doing?
Right.
Let's move back and let's get back into a happy place. We do not want drama. We want to be happy. We want to, we put ourselves in certain situations. We moved back to Miami and on the beach because we wanted that type of environment.
Lie. This is how you know it's over something stupid. Because you're mad and you would like to remain mad. But as you're flipping through Instagram, you're like, oh my God, I got to share this with
you. Right.
That part. I don't have anybody to share this with.
Right.
This is your partner. This is your thing.
Right.
This is your thing. So, yes. Hanging out with a person 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's not what we do. We're together often, like a lot. But at the end of the day, we have our times. Like I have a morning routine. She has a morning routine. There was a period of time where I was going into the office every day because I don't like to work from home. She was working from home. Okay. So I'm in a completely different building than she is. She's here, I'm there. And then, what that would cause is we both be ready to see each other by the end of the day. So now when work is over, we're getting back to each other and we're celebrating each other at that point.
Yeah.
So, that is one of the things that cures it. You're with the right person. You're not going to want to be apart from that person too long.
Right. So on the flip side of that, because, I work from home and there have definitely been times that I get a text message and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm out of here. I'm done working for the day. And so are there ever times where I guess the opposite, where your marriage is like, interferes with the work, and how do you kind of maintain that balance? Like, you, like, that's your husband, that's your wife, you're attracted to each other, like, we got to work together all day. Like, how does that work?
Self-control.
Yeah, we schedule like we know that every day so we wake up around 7-ish. Right.
Mhm.
So Warrick wakes up, he makes morning tea. You know, I will drink our tea, and then we each go our separate ways. So I'll go and walk and exercise for about an hour, hour and a half. He will go and do the same. Right. So, and he has like morning meditation stuff that he listens to, yoga, whatever he's doing in the house or outside the house. We come home, he's already showered. I go in the shower, I put my makeup on, and then I'll make breakfast. We get on our scooters, and we work not too far from home, so we actually ride scooters together to work.
Mhm.
Right? And then when we get into the building, the first maybe like hour we sit together, but then he will separate. So he'll go on the roof because he can't sit still. So he'll go on the roof. I'm still downstairs. If we're having a Zoom meeting, we both pop up on the Zoom meeting, you know, and then later on in the day, we kind of will text each other like, bro, I'm over this. You over this? And he'll say yes or no. Yeah. He'll be like, well, I had one more thing to do. And I'll be like, all right, well, I'm going to go lay down until you're ready to go. Right? And then, or he'll do the same. Right. He'll be like, hey, I'm going to lay down until you're ready to go. Or sometimes we'll text each other and it's like, yo, I'm done. I'm over this. Right. Let's go. And then he'll be like, all right, let's roll. You know, and so we'll leave the office together. So we're pretty much in sync in so many different ways.
But the environment and being in sync, speaking of that, you know, in many different ways, you know, you have to set yourself up. You know what I mean? Right? So we've been together for a while, and we have, we know what each other, we know what we want. Right. So we know that the type of environments we want to be in. So we placed ourselves strategically in the Miami Beach area because we wanted to have everything, like I said, the scooters and all that type of stuff. That was all strategically done. We were like, we want to be around everything we need. And it actually turned out to be better than we thought because we were doing the Google Earth thing and all that type of stuff. And, you know, we have a history because we were I was born and raised here. She was raised here from 8, 9 years old. And we were, and we understand that, hey, this is where we are in our lives. We don't like cold weather. We don't like this. We don't like that. We both like the tropical atmosphere. So let's put ourselves there. So now, even at work, if work stresses us, we can look up and see
the beach,
the skyline,
the birds,
the sunset, the beach atmosphere. I have people literally on a daily basis telling me how beautiful Miami is to me. And that's one of the reasons why we do that, because even, like you said, even when we're at each other or whatever it may be, you go out, take a walk, man, you're like, how can I be depressed?
Right. With this.
You know, so it's like, you know, we set ourselves up in those ways so that we can have things that nurture us and keep our minds whole, you know, so that we're not being destroyed by life's everyday issues.
Yeah, I think it's important too. It's like sometimes we don't realize, you know, we say things like, oh, you know, the grass not being greener on the other side, but we don't realize how that's actually affecting us, and we don't realize this. So, and I'll give you an example of that. The other day I was laying on the sofa, scrolling through Instagram. That's the devil, y'all.
The devil.
So I'm scrolling through Instagram, and I'm seeing all these beautiful islands, and I'm like, oh my God, Warrick, I want to go to an island. And he goes, you live on an island. Because we live on an island. And I was like, oh, yeah.
So you live on
But I'm literally craving something that we already have. And I say that because it's so important that even in relationships, you have to be careful not to be craving something when you already have something amazing.
That's right. Because like I told her, I said we live on. I said, you do know we live on an island in the Caribbean. Miami's in the Caribbean. It's 30 miles from. Was it 90 minutes ride up the street to Cuba?
Right.
And, you know, literally 45 minutes. I can get out there. There's boats out back here. Some of our neighbors have boats. You hop on the boat and be in Bimini in 45 minutes.
Wow.
We're here. And then she said, yeah, you're right. Everything that island has, we have.
Right.
But just because I know sometimes people can look at something and go, well, yeah, but they could do this because they live this way. So to be clear, what we decided that we were thinking, when are we the happiest? At what point are we the happiest?
Right.
And we came up with, there's never an issue when we're on vacation.
Nope.
So we're like, well, what if we built our life around being on vacation?
Yep.
What would that look like?
Yep.
We literally did a little Canva board
Yep.
and was like, all right, vacation. So we need this, and this. And we're like, all right, bet. We need to find a place here so that we always feel like we're on vacation. And that would just help us as people.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm saying with everybody else listening in or anybody else that needs that type of advice or suggestions is build your life into the place that you are happy. And if you're with the right person, you guys will be somewhat in sync, right? Mm-hmm. So your thing may not be tropical weather. Your thing may be, hell, you like sub-zero temperatures. I don't know. Right. You may, whatever your thing is, you may say, hey, I want to live in Alaska for 6 months out of the year.
Right.
Whatever it is, whatever your thing is, put yourself in that situation on a regular basis. It will help.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I'm going to do that when we hang up. I don't have my person yet, but I'm going to do it. And then hopefully, we're going to meet and we're going to have the same thing on our Canva board and it's going to work out.
Exactly.
For your roles, the roles that you have in your marriage and the roles that you have in your business, are they consistent? Do they change? And how do you keep up if they're different? How do you keep up with that? So let's talk about your roles. How do you decide who does what and all of that?
Oh, that's based on talent.
Yeah.
What are our talents? What do we do naturally better?
Yeah.
Warrick is social. Right. So he brings in business. Mm-hmm. And if you remember, you met him before you met me.
Uh-huh.
Right. He spoke to you. Right. And I was just like, okay, we're going to have this meeting.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's very typical. Every once in a while, I will bring in business just because, people may have met me somewhere. They like my energy. Yeah. They ask me what I do and we have a meeting.
And I fade to the back. I mean, we have a couple clients like that. Actually. But there's one client in particular, it's a full woman team, and I brought them in, but as soon as they met Keisha, I ran because I knew she was the better fit for me. You know what I mean? They're gonna receive her a whole lot better and everything. So we do change in those aspects where we're like, hey, this is not, these people, whatever works best for either our relationship or the business.
Or the business, right.
And that's
so you can tell how people gravitate, when we walk into even networkers, I'm like, all right, this person is going to do better with you. So you can talk to them and I'll talk to this person because you're just going to do better with this person. Right. We even had a client where his energy was very masculine.
Yes.
And I was like, he can't take direction from me. He can't stomach me providing him information, and we could just tell that from his energy. So I would literally tell Warrick what to say. I'd be like, hey, we'd be texting each other back and forth. I'm telling Warrick what to tell him.
Yeah.
Wow.
But he would receive information that way. If I said the same thing, he'd be like, no, I don't know. And then Warrick can repeat it and he'll be like, that's amazing. I'm like, I just said that. Right. So it's just like, it's whatever works. And again, that's where you remove ego, right? Because it's about how we move forward. It's not about who's on top. It's not about who's getting the most recognition.
No.
That is completely irrelevant. How do we get the job done the fastest?
And we said, what's the goal?
Right. What's the goal? There are just things that
goal
right.
first.
The goal is the boss. That's what one of our mentors told us.
The goal is the boss or the plan is the boss. Right. Always understand the plan is the boss.
Right. And so that's how we keep things in check. There's certain things he does better than me, right? Like I get really emotional around finances, and I used to be like, well, I don't want it. And so Warrick was like, oh my God, I got this, bro. You're doing too much.
Yeah, so
he takes care of all of that. He does payroll. He does all of that, and he, even though he is more social, I'm very in tune with how people feel. So even as we work with clients, I'm like, well, I can anticipate what people are going to want, what they're going to ask for, how they feel about something before it happens, so I tend to do that more than Warrick does. But it's all, you get in where you fit in.
In the household, we swap. It just really depends on what's going on. It's whatever we need.
Right.
So, at times, it was a spell. I'm in there cooking breakfast every morning,
right.
And she's doing her thing or whatever it may be. And then there's a time where she's cooking breakfast every morning or we come home and she's on a project or whatever, and I'm cooking dinner and she's cooking dinner on another time.
Right.
We just, whatever is needed. Remember, I said ego has to go out the door. And there's no room for that in a successful relationship. So we X the ego out and we say what's needed for the family or the business.
Right.
And then we adapt to fit whatever is needed.
But society said that Takicha's supposed to do all the cooking and cleaning, and no, y'all say to hell with it.
Yeah, I took my whip out the other day and I was telling them, I was like, it didn't work. It didn't work out. It didn't work out. My whip got ripped up. It's all over the place. It's all over the place. And yeah.
It's just but that's the thing is I feel like we have to not follow what society says and thinks and does.
Society's something else, man.
Because they will have you all over the place.
Society is something else.
You know,
man.
they don't know what they want. So how can they dictate to you what you should have?
If you move by society, nothing. I'm sorry. Society, culture, all that good stuff. Yes, we love the culture. We love this. We love that. But at the same time, we're not going to let it die.
It's literally only entertainment.
It's only entertainment.
Yeah,
it's not. We cannot allow society to push our norms. We have to understand those things that we just said. Who am I? Who is she? What do we want? What's the plan? What are the goals? Let's go get it.
Right.
Simple.
Right. I love that. Teamwork and do whatever works for you.
It has to be.
Very much so.
If it's not operate that way, then it's not going to work.
If we're both moving in the same direction, it has no choice but to work.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Right? We have the same goal, so it's like, all right, well, let's do this. And again, it's all about like attitude, right?
Yeah.
Like if I say, and I have to say this because I think there's this toxic belief out there, I don't do this. And it's like,
I don't do this.
And then I hear women saying all the time, like they have this like list of things that they don't do, a list of this type of man that they should have, the amount of money that he should have, and he got to be able to know me. And you have like this whole list, but are you qualified to be with a person like that? That's the other piece, right? Like you have all these wants and needs and desires. That's cool. But are you qualified to have the person that you so desire?
Yeah, I'm cute.
No. I want to bring it up because that was a great example because we saw this video and you probably saw it too on Instagram. The one where the girl, I guess she told him she wanted to go to a 5-star restaurant or something like that. And then, the qualification thing, right? Mm-hmm. And then she's sitting there and she's slurping up the pasta, slurping it up. Mm-hmm. And then she takes the lobster tail, she bites into the tail. And I'm like, yeah, that's what
she wanted a 5-star restaurant experience with a 5-star, but she was not qualified.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And right? So it's like that piece too. It's like I gotta be the person that is qualified to be with the person that I want.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. And so the way that I always tell people is this ideal person you have in your head. First of all, where did you get it from? Right. You probably made it up.
Great.
That's the first point. Especially when it comes to money and all of that. Like, you don't even really know what that type of money looks like. Right. But whatever, right? You're allowed to want what you want. But I always ask, are you the type of person that this person would be attracted to?
Right.
And that's sometimes a hard pill to swallow. I know we like to think a lot of ourselves, but sometimes we have an overinflated sense of self.
Yep.
But what does that do? That it should do one thing. It should only do one thing, and that should motivate you to get better. You know what I mean? If you feel like this is what you want, I want the 5-star experience. I want this. I want that. Put one foot in front of the other, and make a plan. Put one foot in front of the other, and go after that. And then that way, when those types of men or women or whatever it may be come into your presence, you're prepared and ready. You're not only do you want a 5-star experience, you're a 5-star experience.
Right. I love that. And I totally agree. Like, me personally, I don't believe in asking people for things that I can't or I don't do for myself. Right. And so I've always, right after my last relationship, worked on me because that was my idea. Not that I necessarily need this 5-star relationship. I mean, restaurants and all of that. But then I started thinking, well, what do you do for you, girl?
Right.
And now it's like, well, this is my standard. This is the lifestyle that I live. This is my life, right? You have to live a complementary lifestyle. Like, it's just not going to work out otherwise.
Yep.
And so you guys decide, this is us, this is what we want, this is what we don't want. How did the first business idea come about? I know you guys had your daughter, but how did you decide to turn your skills, your gifts, or after, getting Sierra through all of this, like who said, well, let's make this a business?
Well, life.
Yeah.
It wasn't something we chose.
Yeah, it was one of those.
Chose us.
Yeah, we had our minds in a certain place, and we were going in a certain way, and then life threw some curveballs, so we had back against the wall type of deal, and you have to figure out. It's one of those things because people always said that we were action-oriented people. We've had people that came up and said, "Yeah, man, you guys say you're going to do something." I was like, "Well, we're a little different because we understand if our back is against the wall that it's sink or swim. Mm-hmm. There's nobody's coming to help us. Nobody's gonna do the work for us. So next month, the 1st is coming.
Right. You know what we do?
And no matter if we're prepared or not, so we have to figure out what it is that we want to do. That's going to be the fastest thing to getting us taken care of for the next month, so that we can get to our plan and not have to worry about money in those situations.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so important too to have somebody that really supports you and understands your talent, because sometimes you don't know your own self the way you should.
Right. You
don't celebrate yourself the way you should. Mm-hmm. Right. And so to have like a cheerleader in your corner, like, bro, we got this. Yeah. And so, as our daughter was getting older, obviously we have less control over her brand and what's happening because she's growing. Yeah. And she wants to become her own person. But in the midst of that, she also was going to college. Mm-hmm. And then and she wanted to go away for college. But then in the midst of that, the pandemic happened. Yeah. Right. And so anything we had in the books literally was no longer in the books. And it was like, oh my God, how are we going to make money? What are we going to do? And I remembered this, when our daughter was about 11 years old, she asked, if you could have any wish in the world, what would it be? And I said that the world would be on pause so I had time to catch up. And literally when all of that was happening, I heard God be like, didn't you say you wish you had a pause? Well, here we go.
Here it is.
What we doing?
Wow.
You got yourself almost a 2-year pause here.
Right. And in the midst of that, we started getting clients. People are like, I've seen what you did with DJ Beans. Can you help me? I have this idea. And I actually kept saying no. I was like, no, because I'm not as good with people as Warrick is. So I was like, I don't want to have to deal with people. I don't want to do this. And Warrick was like, but they're literally asking us. And I was like, so? And he was like, so all we need to do is come up with how much it would cost for us to do these things. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I guess, but that's not what I want to do. And he's like, well, so what do you want to do? And I'm like, I don't know yet. So as I'm like I didn't know what I wanted to do yet. Warrick was literally being like, yeah, all right, so here, I'm going to have you talk I was having meetings and didn't know what I was supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And crazy, I would end those meetings like, this person's never going to call us again. And then they would email us and go, I can't wait to work with you. And I'm like, why? What is happening right now? But Warrick was so like, babe, you do this so well. Why are you running from it?
Yeah.
And then it kind of took that like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. And so once we decided, okay, this is what we're going to do, the floodgates just opened. And I was like, this is weird.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so we literally had
all the right connections.
We had all the right connections. We had people coming to us to help them. And we didn't have a business plan or anything yet. Mm-hmm. So we figured it all out as we were doing it. And it just continued to grow.
Yeah. And so you talk about roles. So the company was built off of our history of being in the entertainment business and, putting together all these things from events and all that type of stuff to DJ Beauty and the Beats, so all those things. And Takicha's background is interior architecture. It's a design, creative aspect. Mm-hmm. So basically my idea was to focus the business around the creative lead, the key employee, which is Takicha, and have her do what she does best to help amplify brands. So while she's doing that, I'm going to take care of the operation side and take care of the business planning, all those things we don't have, the business planning and the admin stuff, all those things to make sure that and then the team building aspect. So when she would go down and when she would sit in an interview with a potential either subcontractor or what we don't call our employees, we call them team members, or team member, she would basically come into there. I'd already vetted the person. We'd already went through all these things and all that type of stuff. I just needed her to figure out, if this person was what she wanted on her team.
Right.
Was it a good fit on the team? So, I wanted her to do what she does best so that she could help the client, help us build a brand, help us build recognition. They would love her work because she's super freaking detailed and all that type of stuff. And and her best qualities are understanding the client and being able to articulate their brand and all those things on a level that they couldn't, and their clients can understand. So while she's doing that, I'm going to take care of the foundation over here to make sure that she can keep doing.
Right.
So
that's amazing. I wish I had a team player over here, because the entrepreneurship, if y'all don't know, entrepreneurship is tough.
It is.
And
it is
the
for sure.
To our heart, solopreneurs, you, my friend, because that is a hard job.
It
is extremely
wearing
difficult.
All the hats.
It's extremely difficult. Guys, I appreciate it.
That's why we do it too. With the way that we do is because we realized the amount of support that was required, and so we didn't want to just build brands.
Right.
We wanted people to feel like we were supporting them, that we were their teammates, that we worked for them as employees. We really wanted them to feel like they could not fail if we were by their side.
Right.
And so everything about our business, we built that way.
Right.
Our clients get, if I see something on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, I immediately am like, oh, this is good for this person. And I'll just send it to them and I'll say, hey, you should take a look at this. Think about this. This is a great idea. That's just what we do, because we really want our clients to feel like we care. They're not just numbers. They're not just dollar signs. We care.
Yeah, we're a boutique agency, and boutique agencies can only take in about a certain amount of clients. And we need to know that we have clients that we can help. And we need those clients to understand that we're here and we're to support. And we don't want to just be here for today. We want to be here for a long term.
Absolutely. I mean, you send me stuff all the time. You just text me the other day about an idea. And that's a great idea. Let me write that down. Right.
And we're watching you, man.
Yeah.
We're watching you. We gotta make sure she's doing right.
Yeah. And I appreciate it. And we haven't worked together for a couple of years at this point.
Yeah.
So I understand what you did, or at least I know what you did for me. For those that are listening, maybe we have some entrepreneurs watching. What exactly do you help entrepreneurs with?
Okay, so we have two. We have one umbrella, which is the Brand Amplifiers, and so the Brand Amplifiers, we are a branding and marketing agency. So no matter where you are in your business, whether you want a completely new brand or you want to rebrand, we help you to become a noticeable brand and to help you scale it, right? So we even help folks with the technologies they need to scale their brands.
Right.
So we do things from coming up with names, coming up with colors, creating brand strategies, helping you with your website, your SEO, your brand photography, your brand assets. We help you do all of that. The growth, that's the growth piece. We also help you to manage your social media. And on the other side of the spectrum is where we have larger clients who may have been in the game for a while. So we have clients who are just starting 0 to 5 years. And then we have clients that have been in the game for a while that are already, making millions. And so with them, we help them to implement a CRM, right? So that's customer relationship management. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we do retainer services, things of that sort. And we build it around efficiencies and things like that, automation, email marketing, campaigns and things like that. But it's all founded on the platform. We're HubSpot Solutions partners.
Right.
So we do everything on the platform. But even if the client does not have HubSpot or does not want to have HubSpot, we can streamline their tech stack.
Right.
So you have all your tech and everything. So for those who don't know what tech stack is It's all the software you use to run your business daily.
Right.
So if you're running it on spreadsheets, if you're running it on Monday.com or any of those things, you have all these different things. You have
Google, your Calendly, right.
You have all these different things that you're running. We're streamlining those.
Right.
So
they
that
all get integrated into each other so that you know what's happening, when it's happening, right? So
and nothing's falling through the cracks.
One of the easiest ways to explain a CRM is currently, if you're a small business, and even if you just have a handful of clients, every time they email you, or let's say you're looking for a particular email, you got to go to Google, try to remember a word, and then try to search that word. And that's always like a mess, right? But with a CRM, I can go to any one client and it will show me every email I've ever had with them, every communication that we've ever had for text. That one client, right? Every meeting we've ever had, which makes it super easy to find things. What I love about it is I love that when I send someone an email, I know when they open the email. I know what they've clicked on. I can see how long they were in the email. I can see that they've downloaded what I sent them. Like, I love it.
And in your email cap and your email marketing, you see every email you send.
Right.
So you know exactly where the email, you know what you've advertised to them or whatever it may be, or how you've been nurturing that client. But the idea for those types of systems is to make sure that the entire team is on the same page. If one person goes out, that other person can step right in as if, you know, without missing a beat and follow up the client. The client never sees the hiccup.
Right.
You know, so our goal is to really just sew those holes up, you know what I mean? So that nothing falls through. And making sure that the client has all those things, the support and the implementation they need to actually implement those strategies that we've given.
Right. So we help them to build systems and processes, right, to support their brand.
So
and then
okay, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, we can talk all day. Go ahead.
I know.
So let me ask this question. So how does somebody know that they need you? Because when I agreed to come and talk to you guys, I call myself just being polite, like, oh, okay, I'll come and talk to you guys. Like, my mind, before I walked in the door, like, I had already practiced my, oh, thank you, I'll keep you in mind for other clients, you know, like, I had already had it, you know, I had been practicing. Like, I didn't plan on working with you guys, right? For as far as I knew, my rose gold and my gray and my blush was working for me. Like, I had no idea that it was such a big deal about colors. But I walked out of there like, wow. Like, you know, never knew all of this existed, right? I knew the legal side of starting a business, but the customer side and all of that, the colors and the story and all the problems. So how does somebody know that they need to work with you?
Well, they know they need to work with us because their business is not where they want it to be, right? If your bank account is not where you want it to be, you likely need us. You need us to help you brand. You need us to help you market. So if your money is not where it's supposed to be or not where you want it to be, likely your messaging is off, right? You're not attracting the right people to your business. So no matter how genius you are at what you do, if you're not talking to the right people or the people don't know about you, then you will be in the same place 5 years from now, right? So what we help them to do is recognize things that they don't see for themselves, right? Branding and marketing is psychology. So it's just like how you do emotional intelligence. There's emotional intelligence in business as well, right? People do business with people they like. They do business with places that make them happy, that make them comfortable. You know, there's a whole psychology behind business. And so we help you to articulate to your specific niche that they need you.
Yeah, so we let you know when a client is, like I was talking about the tech stack a little earlier, when you know you have your systems aren't efficient, and you're like, hey, I got things over here, I'm missing communications, I got emails that I did not see, I have clients that are coming across my website and they're signing my form or whatever and asking information, and I haven't gotten back to them in a week. You know, those types of things. Or I'm on my social media, I'm putting things out, but I'm not engaging clients. They're not, you know, following through on my call to actions. They're not, you know, or I'm not making a call to action or whatever it may be. But when you're having those inefficiencies and you're seeing those problems that persist with growth or those issues that you're having, then you need us. You need us to figure out, to diagnose what your problem may be, and then give you a strategy on how to get around that problem, and then possibly we will implement that problem, implement the actual strategy for you.
For that. And so I know you guys have grown now. Now, I'm not going to recommend that you try and do this stuff yourself. Just let them do it for you. This is just my personal, because it's just, I don't know. I feel like let people be the expert. Let them do what they do. Yeah. But however, some people like to try to do things on their own. And so I know that you guys have expanded and created resources for those people that like to think that they can do things on their own. This wasn't around when I was working with you guys. It didn't matter because I wouldn't have tried to do it myself, because that's what you're here for. But tell us about this expansion and these resources that you've now since created.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the things that we were recognizing when we were so excited about the brand amplifiers is we had a lot of brand new entrepreneurs that were attracted to our offer, which is great. Mm-hmm. However, maybe 2 to 3 out of 10 could actually afford our services. Mm-hmm. And so that meant 7 people had to walk away. Mm-hmm. And that didn't make us feel very good, right? Mm-hmm. Because we remember being in that place. We remember not having resources and trying to figure things out on our own. And that's just not a place that we wanted to leave people in.
Yeah, we're listening to these people talk, and we're listening to their missions and what they're about and all this type of stuff. Their dreams, their desires. We're like, I'd like to work with these guys, but
right. Then, but it's like, we don't have the resources to do it free of charge, right? Right. So what we decided to do was then start a masterclass series. So we call it Brand Amplify Scale. And so that's our masterclass series where we now teach all of the things that we have taken, that has taken us years to learn. We now teach them. Okay. So if you have limited resources and you cannot hire the brand amplifiers as an agency to implement the work for you, then you can go to brandamplifyscale.com and you can see what courses or resources are available for you to attempt to do it on your own. Yeah. Right? So it's all DIY. So currently we have 2 courses and a bundle that you can purchase. But there's also you can talk to us in a community. You can ask us questions and, we'll help you to figure, things out if there's anything to you that's not clear. So we have a community of people that'll reach out and they're like, hey, I did part ABC. Can you help me with this? And so we'll respond. We're like, hey, yeah, just look at this. All you have to do is this. So that way it helps them to get where they need to go. Mm-hmm. Even though we're not the ones implementing it, at least they know what it takes to get the job done.
Right. Okay. And if they figure out, hey, do as much as they can, because, solopreneurs are awesome because they realize that they got to do it. Nobody's going to do it for them, whatever it may be, and they can't afford it. So some people, push their ways up to the point where they're like, hey, okay, I did all this. Now I need your help.
Now I need you to do this. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And so we just decided that it was time for everyone should be able to grow a business. Yeah. Right. And it should not just be for those who have, a legacy that was left behind. Right. It's not a fair way of doing things. And so we figured, how can we help our own? Yeah. That's women communities, minority communities, veteran communities, those underrepresented communities. How can we help them get a step further?
Mm-hmm. And so give us the website again for the master classes.
Yep. So that's brandamplifyscale.com. And so once you go on that website, you may see a pop-up that'll ask you for your name, email. You'll be sent a free guide. So at least you can start understanding your particular niche. And I advise everyone to get it because even if you think you know your niche, right? Asking those questions is a really good exercise to help you narrow down your messaging.
And we all know as entrepreneurs, we're constantly niching. Mm-hmm. We're constantly just, making it better, molding it to something great. Because even up to this point, we're still molding and molding and molding. And we know we're going to be molding even further. We've niched down a lot. There's a lot of different things that that we're concentrating more on and concentrating less on other things because we've been in it for a while. We've had the chance to talk to the entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. We've had a chance to talk to these founders, and we understand by listening to them what their needs are, what their pains are, and what's more important than others. So that we're able to concentrate on those more important things.
Okay, so go grab that guide so you can figure out what your niche is. But I highly recommend that you just let them do it for you. I think what I appreciated the most, can I say the most? One thing I'll just say that I greatly appreciate, I don't know that I can say that it's the thing I appreciated the most, was being able to talk to you guys. Usually I got on Takicha nerves. And I would say, and this is exactly how I would write her, say, hey, let me know when I can get on your nerves. Because that is exactly
on my nerves.
Let me know when I can get on your nerves, because this brain that I have over here is crazy. And it jumps from thing to thing, idea to idea. And she was always available to allow me to do a brain dump, right? This is what I'm thinking. Now, tomorrow I might be thinking something totally different, but she would go with me, right? And she would allow me to at least do a brain dump. And then she would say, okay, so maybe let's just do this. Or maybe we should just table that and do this. And I just be like, okay. It worked for me, right? It worked because I felt like she had taken the time. I trusted her enough. And I felt like she had taken the time to really understand me, so that when she said, no, let's not do that, or maybe we could try it this way. She never really told me no, but she would say in her nice way, like, well, maybe we could think about it this way. So you saying no, cool, got it. That's the way my brain processes. That's how my brain processes things. And so
that's exactly what she was saying.
Of course, I get it. Duh, right? But she gotta say it nicely. Well, she didn't have to, but I get what she was doing. But I appreciated it because I felt like you had already taken the time to truly get to understand me to the best of your ability. Because, right, I actually, when I was working with you, didn't know what this was going to look like. Right, you guys were actually the first ones to give me an idea about a podcast. Like when you guys gave me like the idea of like where this was going, I saw a podcast. I said, what? No way, not me. I'm like, are you kidding me? No, that's not what this is going to be. So I actually had no idea what this was going to be. And then maybe like a year and a half, 2 years, like here we are. I never thought about a podcast. Never. Until I saw it on the paper. And even then I dismissed it. And they would bring it back up and I'm like, not me. Right. And so even still, that means you understood what was at least the space I was trying to go and what would be a good, now I had to get on board with it. But I think that's just a testament to your experience and your expertise to really help people that may not have it all figured out.
Right. I mean, the other thing too is that we're coming in from the outside, right? Mm-hmm. You've lived with yourself your entire life. Right. And you've created your own judgments and limitations about yourself. Mm-hmm. So every time a new client comes on board, we're thinking of the biggest and the best way for them to shine without limitations. Right. And one thing I say all the time is Oprah is no better than any of us. The difference is the work that she did.
Work ethic.
Right? It's the work ethic. It's the belief that she could do certain things. And then little by little, she got herself there. And even if you hear from her, she'll tell you that there are things that she didn't believe she can do, but there were other people that believed in her. Right? And so one thing we just love is to see people grow outside of their own limitation. Like we love that. You know, and so that's special to us. We love seeing it. And it's like, and the better you do, the better we do. Like we just, you know, it just is what it is. So to see you on a podcast is like amazing.
I'm serious. Yeah.
We love it. We love it. Wow.
I love that.
You knew you could do that?
No.
I love that.
Magic.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
You know, that's so hilarious. It's just like you know, for us, like we said, it's not just a business. It's not just about the dollars. Yes, we have to make money. We have people that we need to pay for their hard work, for their creativity. But at the same time, you are worth it. You have everything. God already gave you everything you needed to move forward. You know, and we believe that about everybody we work with. So we just help to dig it out of you. You know, what do you want? How do you want it to happen? Let's dig it out of you. Let's go for it. So when people don't get to a certain place or they plateau, it's literally just off of the limitations they have in their own mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I would agree with that.
So what we do is a cause. It's a for-profit business, but it's a cause. And at the end of the day, it's in regards to bridging the gap between the wealth gap.
Mm-hmm.
And we understand that entrepreneurship is the way for that to happen. You can invest in stocks, you can do all those other things. Great. Those are awesome. But the true way to get yourself out into independence is owning a business, entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. So we encourage Black women, especially Black women, minorities, and veterans to explore their ideas, get out there and become a boss.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love that. So for those that are going to take my advice and contact you, how can they get in touch with you?
So you can hit us up at
thebrandamplifiers.com.
So you can hit us up at thebrandamplifiers.com. If you choose to email, you can hit us up at upgrade me. That's UP upgrade me at thebrandamplifiers.com.
Okay. And I will make sure that all of that information is also in the episode description. We've been talking a while. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I haven't talked to you guys in a long time. So I appreciate it.
It does feel like that.
I
feel like we text a lot. I'd be like, hey.
It's just the conversation.
Right. The conversation is different. And it's usually just you, Takicha. I don't get to talk to Warrick as much.
That's true. That's true.
It is.
I forget people like you.
I appreciate you guys for joining us. For those that tuned in, thanks for joining us live. If you're listening, know that you can always join the conversation live in the Perfect Partner Facebook community. I am going to let you guys give our Thriving Thursday tips. Either one or both of you can give one. Thriving Thursday is a tip that I usually give to help people thrive in their singleness. And I don't necessarily mean single in terms of relationship status. I mean single as an individual person. So what is your Thriving Thursday tip or tips?
Go ahead.
All right. So my tip is to every day have a morning routine that includes a devotional, right? And so every day, if you write about two things. One, the things that you are very grateful for. And two, the things that you intend to see in your life in the future. And the reason I say write it down is because when you write things down, not only are you more intentional about what you're writing versus the way we think, but you use your words more wisely when you write, right? So those are the things that I would say to do is to have a morning devotional. You're going to write two things down. One is a list of things that you're very grateful for. Mm-hmm. And two is the things that you intentionally want to happen in your life. Be very intentional about the things you want.
I'm going to make sure I write that down so I can do that. I haven't been doing that. See the stuff? Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Okay. And Warrick, what's your tip?
Well, I mean, mine is typically be intentional. Really have a plan of action with objectives, and take that goal piece by piece, objective by objective, so you get there. Being intentional in every step. That will keep you locked in and on course.
I love that. I feel like you guys have given us so much today, so many great gems. I appreciate you for coming and sharing with us. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we sign off tonight?
Well, thank you for having us.
Yes, for sure. I
enjoyed it. Really did. This is fun.
I did. If there, my one more thing, I always feel like I have a one more.
You always have one.
Because I just feel like people are don't be tapped into the God in them, bruh. And I'm just like, bruh, you are God. You have everything you need inside of you, and don't ever let someone talk you out of that belief.
Right.
You got this.
So since you said that, then now I got something now too. Because I always say this, right? That's like life is like a video game, right? People always feel like they're less than, or they don't have enough, and they always have an excuse of why they can't do something. Mm-hmm. You have every tool you need right now to get you to the next level. Mm-hmm. If you don't have money, money's not what you need. If you don't have certain things, you don't need those things.
Wow.
You have to look at your resources. You have to look at yourself. You look at the resources around you, your human resources, and all those things. And you have everything you need to get you to the next level. And once you get to that next level, you'll have everything you need then to get to the next one.
And read The Game of Life and How to Play It. That's it. That's it.
Game of Life and How to Play It. Okay, we got it.
Reward, right?
Yeah, that's it. No, I think that's the point. I don't even remember who wrote it. But it's The Game of Life, How to Play It. It's an $8 book.
Yeah.
Go get it, Neil. Is what she said.
Go get it.
I love that. Well, thanks so much for joining us, guys. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed this. Thanks so much for you guys that listen live. As we will continue next week, I will see you guys next week.
See ya.